Hello dear learners, my dear students. In continuation with the second session, we are in the third session, that is Organisms and Population, Part 3. Introduction to this session. Dear students, take a notebook and a pen to note down few points as I explain. Okay? I'll be giving you few examples also along with the introductory explanation. Please note down in a notebook with a pen. Hope you all have the notebook and pen with you right now. In nature, with respect to any species, there is no possibility of single individuals living in an isolated condition. Majority of them live in groups in a very well-defined geographical area, either to share the resources available in it, or they compete for the similar resources. And also potentially they interbreed among themselves and helps in perpetuation of the species in that particular area. Thus it together forms a population. Although the term population indicates the interbreeding among the individuals of same species in a particular area, that also is mainly due to sexual reproduction. Apart from sexual reproduction, even the individual organisms that are mainly reproducing by asexual means are also generally considered in the population for the purpose of ecological studies. What is population? A group of similar individuals of a particular species found in a specific geographical area, either sharing or competing with the resources available, and also perpetuate the species. The perpetuate means it is going to continue the generation by reproduction, especially by sexual reproduction. But in some lower plants and also some invertebrates, there will be asexual reproduction also that is going to contribute to the population of the particular species in any area. For example, here I have highlighted few cormorants in a group in a wetland. Since the birds are very smaller in the picture here, I have given one more single cormorant bird above the group of birds, so that you will understand how the cormorant looks. This is an example for population. Then rats in the abandoned dwelling. You can see here rats in the abandoned dwelling. This is also an example for a population in an area. Followed by this is teakwood trees in a forest track. Very beautiful one. You would have seen in most of the movies also. I hope so. Then bacteria in a culture plate, that is in the agar plate. In a microbiology laboratories they will culture it. Here when you observe, in each and every part, in each and every small circles, dots and also the enlarged ones, you find several lakhs of bacteria in the form of colonies, that is they are present in the groups. And the next example, can you count the number of lotus in a pond? No. It will be present in large numbers. So here, these are some of the examples of a population in a given area. Although an individual organism is the one that has to cope up with the changed environment, it is at the population level that natural selection operates to evolve the desired traits or characteristic features. Therefore, population ecology deals with the combination of population genetics as well as evolution. Both together is considered as a part of population ecology. A population has certain attributes that an individual organism does not possess. An individual may have just birth or death. After the birth, they live for some time, reproduce once they reach reproductive period, and they become old, then leads to death. But in a population, it has a birth rate and a death rate. In a population, these rates refers to the per capita births and per capita deaths respectively. The rates hence here is expressed in numbers, that is change in the numbers, either increase or decrease with respect to the members of a specific population. If there is increase in the number in a population, that is number of individuals of same species, it is called birth rate, and in contrasting with that, if there is decrease in it, it is called death rate. Now what is this birth rate, death rate is exactly mean? I have given one example here. Birth rate, when you take a pond, just for understanding the birth rate, imagine that there are 20 lotus plants in the pond, and just in 1 year it produces around 8 plants. Just it is imaginary figure, just to understand the birth rate. When you take 8 by 20, you will get 0.4. And per year, there is about 0.4 offsprings of the newborn ones, that is new lotus plants produced. Similarly, death rate, I have taken example as a Drosophila Melanogaster, commonly called fruit fly, which was one of the famous experimental material, that is insect, used by Thomas Hunt Morgan for genetic studies. That in detail we will be studying under genetics chapter. Here fruit flies common name, that is Drosophila Melanogaster. In the laboratory, say for example, out of 40 fruit flies, around 4 dies in a particular duration of time. When you take 4 in the numerator divided by 40, you will get 0.1 individuals per fruit fly per week. This is the death rate. So now you have understood the per capita birth and per capita death, or birth rate and death rate. Hope it's all very clear. Just you can note down and you can go through the textbooks also, you will understand better. Then population and its attributes. As I already told, population indicates the group of individuals of a particular species living in a specific geographical area which either share or compete for the similar resources potentially interbreed, and also they perpetuate the species, continue the generations, and that constitutes actually the population. And you can write in a different manner also the definition of population. Population is defined as a group of similar individuals or genetically similar, you can write in some cases, lower organisms, or group of individuals of any species living in an area, that is geographical area, mainly for either sharing or competing with the similar sources of the food or anything, whatever is available, water and all. And also they should potentially interbreed to produce the fertile offsprings, that is called perpetuation of species, continuation of generation. A population has certain attributes that an individual organism does not possess, that is the birth rate, death rate, and it also includes the sex ratio. The birth rate and death rate are referred as the per capita births and deaths respectively, and the birth rate indicates there is increase in the number of members in the population, and in contrasting with that, death rate indicates the decrease in the number of individuals in a given population. Sex ratio is another important attribute of the population. An individual may be either male or female, but population has the sex ratio. For example, 60% of the population are females and 40% are males in a specific species. That is just an example. That is sex ratio. You will get around 3:2. That's the sex ratio. Male to female sex ratio. A population at a given time in a given geographical area, it is composed of different individuals of different ages or age groups. For example, if you take a family itself, the newborn ones may be there, the young boys and girls around age group of 10 to 15, adolescents, and then around 20 plus, 30 plus age, and old aged people also. If the age distribution is plotted for the population study, the resulting structure will be considered as age pyramids. If the age distribution is plotted for the population, the resulting main structural representation is considered as age pyramid. Age distribution in the sense percent of individuals of a given age group. For human population, age pyramids generally show age distribution of males and females in a combined diagram. The shape of the pyramids, it will take the shape of the pyramids, and it reflects the growth status of a population. Either it may be growing type, that is expanding type of population, or stable population, or declining population. Here you can find diagrammatic representation of age pyramids for human population of different age groups, and three different age groups we considered here. The yellow color indicates the individuals in the pre-reproductive period. The blue color indicates the individuals in the reproductive period, and the pink color indicates the post-reproductive period. In the expanding type of population, you can clearly observe diagrammatically the yellow portion is larger at the base, and reproductive period individuals, the individuals of reproductive period is decreased step by step, and the number of individuals in the post-reproductive period will be very less. This indicates the expanding or growing type of age pyramids. In another type, the second one, stable population or stable age pyramid in the human population. Here, more or less, the individuals in the pre-reproductive period and the reproductive period both almost initially you find equal, and slightly the reproductive period decreases proceeding towards the upper side, and post-reproductive period is similar to that of that expanding type only. Here there is some sort of stability between the pre-reproductive and reproductive period a few individuals. That's why it's called stable population. And compared with these two, another type of age pyramid in the human population you observe here, that is declining population, where the number of individuals in the reproductive period are more than that of the pre-reproductive and post-reproductive period, that is old age people. And you can observe clearly here, post-reproductive period individuals are almost same in all the three different kinds of age pyramids with respect to human population, and pre-reproductive as well as reproductive phase of individuals varies. That makes us to classify the age pyramids with respect to human population as expanding, stable and a declining type. And this diagrammatic representation may be asked for 3 marks in the examinations, only to draw the diagrams, and you can practice this in the classwork later. Next up, coming to the population size. The size of the population tells a lot about its status in the habitat, that is the dwelling place where the organism lives. Whatever the ecological processes we consider to investigate in a given population, it would be the outcome of the competition with the other species, the impact of the predator in that area, or the effect of pesticide application. We always evaluate them in terms of any change in the population size. The size in nature could be as very low as less than 10, that is Siberian cranes at Bharatpur wetlands in any year for that purpose, or it may go into millions also, like in unicellular green alga, that is Chlamydomonas in a pond. You cannot count the number, several millions will be present. Since it is unicellular, just by mitosis itself will produce a new individual organisms, and they do reproduce by sexual methods, isogamy, anisogamy and oogamy also, which was studied in first PUC algae. Population size or population density, that is represented in terms of capital N. It is a measure of the number of individuals in a given area, but it may sometimes not be more appropriate to consider that. For example, in some cases, like it is very meaningless or difficult to determine the population density or size. In an area, if there are 200 Parthenium plants, that is commonly called Congress Gida in Canada, but only a single huge banyan tree with a large canopy. Canopy means the distributed branches with the foliage, leaves and all. Foliage means dense leaves. States that the population density of banyan is very low because it's single, and related to that of the Parthenium, that amounts to underestimating the enormous role played by the banyan in that community. In such cases, the percentage cover or the biomass is more meaningful measure of the population size. That means when you uproot the plant and burn along with the root system, everything, the total dry weight of the organism is biomass. When you consider the biomass of a single banyan tree which is very huge with dense foliage spread out far apart with respect to another plant that is Parthenium in a given area around it, the biomass is very high with respect to the banyan tree than that of the Parthenium plants, so many. So here we consider the biomass as a part of the representation or measure of the population size. The total number is again not an easily adoptable measure. If the population is huge and counting is impossible, and it will be very time consuming. Like when you take a culture, just now I showed the bacterial culture containing the microbiology lab containing the petri dishes with bacterial culture in it. It is not that easy to count the bacteria present in each colony. Several millions of bacteria will be present. So it is impossible to do that. Sometimes for certain ecological investigations, there is no need to know the absolute population densities. Relative densities itself serves as the purpose equally very well. So absolute population density, it is very difficult to estimate it, but relative densities means comparative, like just now you have studied Parthenium and the single banyan tree which is huge. The biomass, when you measure biomass of the relative biomass of both the plants in a given area will be accountable and it will be considered as a measure of the size of the population. That is called relative densities, which is going to serve the purpose of studying the population size. For example, the number of fish caught per trap is good enough measure of its total population density in a lake. We are mostly obliged to estimate population sizes indirectly without actually counting them or seeing them. For example, if it is lion, tigers and other wild animals, we cannot go and count it how many numbers are there in a given particular geographical area where that is called habitats. For example, a tiger census, what they do in our national level, in the national parks and tiger reserves, it is often based on the pug marks or the fecal pellets, all that. Pug mark means where the tiger would have moved away from that region. You can see the marks of their feet there. That is called pug marks, as well as fecal pellets also will be taken into consideration. So this is about the population size and the density. Both are one and the same. Population growth. The size of the population is not static. It keeps changing with the time depending upon the availability of the food, predation pressure, and also reduces with respect to the survival. The main factors that determine the population are natality, mortality, immigration and emigration. The main four factors that determines the population growth in an area are natality, mortality, immigration and emigration. Whether the population survives flourishing or declining, based on that some fluctuations in the changes, the four different processes are considered here with respect to population growth. Natality, the number of births during a given period of time in a population, plus initial density also considered here. So what is natality? Roughly we'll call birth rate. The number of births of the individuals during a given period of time in a given population, plus it includes the initial density of the population also, because already existing group of population is there. When new births, new offsprings are produced by reproduction, that also will get added up during a particular time duration. So that is natality, very important for 1 mark all these terms, or maybe for 2 marks mention the different factors that determines the population growth. Means you can mention only the highlighted part, that is natality, mortality, immigration and emigration. Mortality, the number of deaths during a given period of population. Number of deaths in a given population during a specific period of time is mortality. Mortal refers to death. You know, mortuaries in hospitals, that indicates the dead bodies which they preserve there. So mortal refers to death. Natal refers to birth. Sometimes we consider prenatal death, before the birth of the baby it will die. Postnatal death, after the birth, soon after the birth of the baby, within few hours it may have some disorders or genetic, whatever the problem may be, it may die. That's called postnatal death. So immigration, that means means coming in. No, the number of individuals of same species that have come into the particular habitat from elsewhere. For example, foreigners come to our country for studies or for the purpose of some work and all that. That is called immigration. The number of individuals in to a given population will get added up. Emigration, E means remove. The number of individuals of the population that have left the habitat and gone elsewhere. For example, most of the Indians, they'll go to the other different countries for in search of jobs or studies or doing research, or they may settle down there itself. So we'll minus that number of individuals. So that is called emigration. I hope this is very clear and understood to you all. Natality, birth rate; mortality, death rate; immigration, number of individuals added to the existing population; emigration, number of individuals who have left the place where they were living to the other different area. This is diagrammatically represented here in this form. You can have a clear picture, very easy to understand also. Population density, that is the number of individuals of a particular species in a given area in a given time, based on the source of food available and all those factors. They have given very clearly the arrow marks also. You observe 2 arrow marks, that is with respect to natality represented as B, birth; immigration, I. To the existing population density, there will be addition of newborn ones, that is natality. So there is plus mark on the arrow mark. And another arrow mark towards the population density itself, like natality. Immigration, I migrated from other areas. So it will add up the, it will increase the number of individuals in a given population, that is population density will increase. In other 2 cases here in the diagrammatic sketch, D, death, mortality; E, immigration, moving away from the population of a given area. So it is considered as negative here. You can very clearly observe the arrow mark for mortality and immigration is away from the population density. The arrow marks for natality and immigration is towards the population density. That itself indicates very clearly the highlighted definition above here. Now we can represent it mathematically also here. If capital N is considered as the population density at a time t, then its density at time t plus 1 is, and it should be mentioned there, t plus 1, it's missing. If N is the population density at a time t, then the same population density at a given time t plus 1, that is N t plus 1, it is missing there, before is at time t plus 1. Please note down N t plus 1 is equal to nt plus difference between b plus I and d plus e. As I have highlighted here, B refers to birth rate, I refers to immigration, D refers to death rate, E refers to immigration rate. Since it takes negative sign, it's taken common for both D and E outside the bracket. Hope you all understand it very clearly. You are all mathematics students. I hope you do understand. Population density will increase if the number of births plus the number of immigrants, that is B plus I, is more than that of the number of deaths plus number of immigrants, that is D plus E, or else it will definitely decrease. That means NT refers to the population density, that is at a given time. But along with that, when you consider B plus I value, it should be more, D plus E value should be less than that. Then definitely we consider that the population density in a given area increases, or else it will decrease. It's a very simple concept, mathematically represented with the above chart. Then we'll come to the growth models. Does the growth of a population with time show any specific and predictable pattern? We have been concerned about unbridled human population growth and problems created by it in our country, and it is therefore natural for us to be curious if different animals' population in nature behave the same way or show some restraints on growth. Perhaps we can learn a lesson or two from nature and how to control the population growth. The population growth mainly takes place according to the availability of the food for the organisms, the habit condition. Habit means the appearance of the organism, external look. When you observe an ant and an elephant, when you observe a cat and a rat, you can differentiate. That is called habit, morphological outlook of the organism. And habitat condition along with the habit also included, because the habit also helps them to live in a definite habitat. Presence of other biotic and abiotic factors also accounts for this. There are two main types of models which we study to know about the growth of the population. That is, first one, exponential. There is a wrong spelling. NE, it is wrong. Exponential growth. Please rectify the spelling. EXPONENTIAL. E should be omitted. Sorry for that. Exponential growth and logistic growth. Exponential growth. In this kind of growth, it occurs when the food and space is available in sufficient amount. The resources of food and the place are available enormously. Then what is the kind of growth you find there? That is called exponential growth. And you all know, when there is more and more availability of food and the space available for the organisms to live in a particular area, interacting with other existing biotic factors and abiotic naturally, there will be definitely increase in the population density gradually. When the resources in the habitat are unlimited, each species has an ability to realize fully its innate potentials to grow in large numbers. For example, a child which is fed very well, it will grow well. And the children who are in the slum or those who are deprived of the nutrition, that is nutritional deficiencies, they will not have proper growth. and here not with respect to individual growth. Like that, here if the sources of food are available, more and more number of organisms will be there in a healthy environment, reproducing more and more. The population grows in an exponential or geometric fashion. Now, since this is a lockdown, that itself can be taken as an example. Initially, we used to get the food either, poor people or whatever it may be, they used to get food somehow in a working place or anything like that. But now, during the time of lockdown, we find so many people are suffering from lack of availability of food, job, money, space for living, place for living, and all that. So, uh, previously we were having the exponential growth with respect to the economy also. Here now it is declining like that. So you can have the contrasting characters, also contrasting aspects of this also, so that you can understand very well. The population grows in an exponential or geometric fashion. What is the meaning of geometric fashion? For example, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8, 8 becomes 16, 16 becomes 32, 32 becomes 64, 64 becomes 128. This is called geometrical increase in the population. And exponential growth is also called geometric growth of the population. And this is possible only when the availability of food and space is sufficiently large. In a given population of a size n, the birth rates are represented as b, small b, and death rate is represented as small d in this particular model. Then increase and decrease in n during the unit period of time. Mathematically we can represent dn by dt. N represents population density with respect to time t n by t. dn by dt refers to a small change, that means increase in the population. Either it may be very less or more. So that change is represented as dn by dt, that is number of individual increase with respect to the time, is equal to b minus d into n, where b is birth rate, d is death rate as mentioned above. Let b minus d is equal to r. When you consider b minus d as a r, then you can rewrite the dn by dt is equal to b minus d into n in the form of dn by dt is equal to rn. I'll repeat, dn by dt is equal to b minus d into n. When you replace b minus d by r, it will take this form, dn by dt equals rn, where r is considered in this equation as intrinsic rate of natural increase. It is a very important parameter chosen for assessing impact of any biotic or abiotic factor on the population growth. That is, if the number of individuals of other existing species surrounding it, if it increases or decreases, or the abiotic factors like availability of food or light for the plants, space for their survival, soil pH for microorganisms or some soil dwellers like earthworm, etc. Hope this is very clear, and the graphical representation I will come to that later. Population growth curve, that is the curve here indicates both models, growth models, dn by dt is equal to rn, and another from logistic growth, dn by dt is equal to rn into n is replaced by k minus n by k, and here in the equation itself is very clear, dn by dt is equal to n rn, it is included along with k minus n by k. So here logistic growth, if there is a competition between the individuals of a population for food and space in a given area, the fittest organisms will survive and perpetuate, that is reproduce and continue their generations, and the unfit ones will be eliminated naturally based on Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest. In detail, you are going to study about this in the evolution chapter. In case of exponential growth model, you find food and space for the organisms are available plenty without any much competition and all that is considered. That is called exponential growth or geometric growth. If there is competition, definitely the fit ones only will survive, the unfit ones will be eliminated. This concept you will study further in population interaction in further videos. Next video. In this type of growth, initially it shows a lag phase. There is a spelling mistake, sorry for that. It's not leg, it is lag, L-A-G. Lag phase, and followed by the phases of acceleration and deacceleration. Here the formula is dn by dt equals, it got shifted to the upper side, it should be written next to it, next to the equal. Dn by dt equals small r capital N within the bracket k minus n by k, where n is the population density at a time t, r is the intrinsic rate of natural increase, and k is carrying capacity. What is this carrying capacity? Very important for 1 mark in the exam. What is carrying capacity? In any ecosystem, the k represents the size of the population that can be supported indefinitely upon the available resources and services of that particular ecosystem. In another way, the maximum population size that an environment can sustain indefinitely for most species there are variables that helps in calculating k. So what is the carrying capacity? The maximum population size that an environment can sustain indefinitely. I'll repeat, the maximum population size that an environment can sustain indefinitely is called carrying capacity. And the carrying capacity depends on food availability, water supply, living space, and environmental conditions, that is abiotic factors. And also here it includes, according to me, other organisms which are present in the vicinity in competing with the food and water, living space and all also. Since the resources for the growth for populations are finite, that is very limiting amount of resources are available, there will be a competition also. The logistic growth model is therefore considered as a more realistic one than exponential growth. Exponential growth is considered just for understanding without any other organism competing for the same resource of food. Here most realistic one is the logistic growth pattern. To highlight something, here you have exponential growth which is unrestricted. Population size, when it is plotted with respect to time, you will get a J-shaped curve. The growth rate of the population usually accelerates, means increases gradually geometrically without fluctuation anywhere. Whereas logistic growth, which has a restricted manner, when population size is plotted along the with respect to time, it has 3 different phases. The rate accelerates initially, lag phase, and the point of maximum growth in the middle, and the rate slow down further. I hope this is a very difficult topic, but when you go through it 2 to 3 times, it will be very easy to understand continuously. Exponential growth pattern of the population results in J-shaped curve which you observe above. That is when you plot n in relation with the time. The integral form of the equation for the exponential growth is NT is equal to N naught E per RT, where NT refers to population density after a given time t. N naught refers to population density at time 0, that is initially what we observe. R smaller represents the intrinsic rate of natural increase, and E refers to, you all know the mathematics students, the base of the natural logarithm, and the value of it is 2.71828. Any species growing exponentially under unlimited resource conditions can reach enormous population density in a shorter time. But Darwin showed how even a slow growing animals like elephants could reach enormous numbers in the absence of the checks. It is to demonstrate dramatically how fast a huge population could be built up when growing exponentially. And I hope you all have understood it. Any clarifications you can note down. Please, students, repeatedly you watch how many times you wish to watch with concentration. Really, you will enjoy learning once you get involved with it by noting down the points or hearing it again and again, understanding the concept. Hope you all have understood these details, and in next session we'll study about the life history variation in the population interaction. In that 5 different types are there, and in the next session I will continue with the predation and competition. Dear students, please do spend your quality time constructively during this lockdown period to learn these aspects very clearly, and the entire ecology portion having 4 different chapters, you can make up the passing marks. 22 marks questions will appear in the annual examination. Hope you will learn it in detail, and further in other videos after completing this chapter I am going to give the details of the type of questions that may appear in the examination, and also test questions where you can answer yourself either by seeing or without seeing, whatever you wish. And have happy day. Thank you.